Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnastana. It's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. I just had lunch with a couple gentlemen that I feel will be ideal candidates for this lodge. Now, this is kind of a follow-up to a segment we did in 2024 where we talked about the ideal candidate. So we know what we're going to look for in the ideal candidate. Now, how do we approach the ideal candidate? Now, I know there are organizations that say to be one, you ask one. Well, how do you go about posing that question? Like to them. We can't just always wait for them to ask if they don't know we're out here. So that's what this segment's going to be about. It'll be another one of those ongoing segments where you see different, where you see me discuss this topic with different members. I'll post some of my personal experience in here. So this should be interesting. Let's move forward. After I finish this.
Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Now, I was going to go straight to interviews with this one, but I got thinking on this the other day and a scripture came to me. I'm going to share that scripture with you. That scripture is taken from Luke 14, beginning at verse 16. And this is a parable that Jesus brought to his disciples. A certain man made a great supper and bade many. And when his servant sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, "Come, for all things are now ready." And they all, these are his guests, they all with one consent began to make excuse. So the people that were supposed to go to this dinner this gentleman was holding kept making excuse. So, moving down to verse 21. So the servant came and showed the Lord these things. So he talked about all the different people that refused to come. Then said the master of the house, then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, "Go out quickly into the street and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind." And the servant said, "Lord, it is done, as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room." And the Lord said unto the servant, "Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper." So, this brings me more into the, shall we say, into the crux of today's segment. We can't wait for people to come and join our lodges, can we? We just can't wait. You know, this gentleman, this is an example of how we have to be welcoming, right? Not just to wait, go out and bring them in, right? Now, the traditional, as I've said before, way of doing things is to be one, you ask one. But do we always need to wait, right? Well, let's hear from my guests and see what they have to say. The first person we're going to talk to is David Shear. He is the Secretary of Peninsula Lodge 128 Independent Order of Oddfellows. You saw him here numerous times on Points of Light Radio. He's also the elective secretary of the Northern Star 715 Grand United Order of Oddfellows, right? You saw him here talking about the Muscovites as well. He's a wealth of knowledge of Odd Fellowship. Let's see what he has to say about how he brings people into Odd Fellowship. Yeah, and you reach to people outside of Odd Fellowship. But
yeah, we need
how do you
to.
find you do that? Like personally speaking, I try to find something in the course of a conversation with somebody or something. I'll try to, when I'm talking to them, think this guy would be a good fit. And then eventually you try to get on a topic that might be similar to it. Say, well, like, this is what we do at my lodge, or I'll bring up my lodge. And I'll say, you try to find that common ground, something that might interest them. Do you find you do that with them, or?
Well, to be honest, I love Odd Fellowship so much that I'm talking about it with people all the time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And really, I talk to people about it, and this is the biggest thing. If they are showing any interest at all, I let them know that they can join. All they have to do is tell me that they're interested, and I'll help them do it.
Exactly.
And what has been really, really interesting, because I know that most people are afraid to ask someone or to invite them to join the lodge. And what I have found is that over and over again, people said, well, I've been waiting for you to invite me, because that's how it works, right? You can't join unless a member invites you.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, it used to actually be the other way. We couldn't invite you. You had to ask us. And so I don't necessarily, I say, if you're interested, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really amazing. People don't understand this, but lots and lots and lots of people want to join, and they think that they have to be invited to join.
I personally, and this is me, I have business cards for some of the organizations I belong to. So and it has my name, my phone number, the lodge email address, or my email address, whatever, and the Facebook page, because I want them to get that information out there. Do you do that?
We have brochures for our lodge, and we also have just half a sheet telling about our lodge, and a QR code where they can scan it with their phone. We have it like in the window where they can scan it with their phone.
Oh, that's great.
And just go online directly to an online application.
Okay, that's amazing. That's a great idea. Next, we're going to hear from Naf Bashalas. He's the immediate past Grand Primo of the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. Now, this gentleman and his fellow members must be doing something right, because the RAOB in Cyprus has been growing by leaps and bounds. So let's see how it is they're welcoming people into the RAOB. So, but now, for instance, when you get a candidate for your lodge, how do you approach them, may I ask? Like, I know we're supposed to say, I always say this, I know many people say to be one, you ask one. We can't always wait, right?
No, you don't have to. You can. There are people that approach us. People who come sometimes to our events.
Okay.
And we'll do a barbecue, or we have a summer ball. We have a winter ball. We do events for St Andrews. In the last year, we did St George's, St Andrews, Burns Night, St Patrick's. We did as well. So we have outside non-buffs who come with their wives to our events. And it's like, oh, this seems okay. And they will ask us. Or
oftentimes you can open and say, do you think you'd be interested in this? Do you ever do that? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll be just like that. Or just come down and see how you get on with it. It fits for some people. For other people, it doesn't. So again, you get out of it what you put in. But again, our lodges tend to have very different characters in there. They're not everyone's the same. So sometimes you'll make a joke and it's over the head of some people, and you've got other people laughing away, and some just blank faced. But that's it. Our ages in the lodge, whilst you can join from the age of 18. For example, both of my sons are buffs.
This is good. Yeah.
They don't go though. They're too young for it. They're 23 and 29. Yes, my older one probably now would be a bit more into it. But we have people in their 30s up to people in their 80s. Yeah. So they're very different kind of people. But so you may have someone who's in their 80s who's very young in attitude, and you might have someone who's in their 60s who's very old and traditional in attitude. So the age doesn't really matter. But with younger people, they don't want to join in the fun so much because it feels strange making fun of your uncle or your grandfather. If they come a few times and they get into it, and then they do get a bit more involved. But it tends to be in the 30s really is probably the best age, 30s, 40s, 50s to join. But anyone can join from 18.
Lastly, we are going to visit with Jean Uchi. She's the Supreme President of the Columbianettes, which is the Catholic Women's Auxiliary of the Knights of Columbus. You'll see part of an interview I did with her as well as her friends. Now, if someone, let's just say, I know we're supposed to let people approach us, but let's just say you see someone that would be an ideal candidate for membership in your organization. How do you approach that individual? I personally have business cards. I'll give them out.
No, you know what? We just talk to someone. I have no issue just going up to someone and saying, "Have you ever heard of the Columbiates?" And if they haven't, then I'll tell them about us. And if they have, then we extend the invitation. We also we do recruiting at our various parishes. We have tables set up after Mass, and we talk to the ladies on the way out, ask them if they know about the Columbiates and if they'd like to join. So I'm not afraid to approach any woman that might, be a really good member.
So, how do you feel about what you've heard in this segment, brothers and sisters? Right? I think the common theme is we don't always have to wait for a potential candidate to approach us, and shouldn't. We should approach them, right? What do you do, shall we say, for that matter, to start the conversation? I personally, oftentimes when I see a candidate, a good potential candidate, I'll try to find that, as you heard me say earlier, the common ground. I'll say, well, there's a lot of people in our line of work here, or in your line of work in our lodge, right? Oftentimes I bring a potential candidate out for a meal, right? And I'll have a meal with them, right? And to further discuss. Sometimes I will, you know me for my bad habits. I'll often when I'm having a cigar with someone I think would be a good potential candidate, I'll say, well, one of the lodges I belong to, we can have a cigar and a drink after the meeting's over in the basement, because many people think we're just a bunch of guys who meet in suits, right? And when the meeting, we sit there all done up in our church clothes, and then when it's over with, we loosen our tie off, walk out the door, jump in our cars, and go home. No, a good lodge, it doesn't end there. You meet a little bit of fellowship afterwards, a drink or something like that. I mean, it's wonderful, and that you do have that to offer. And many people are many potential candidates are looking for that kind of Menschkeit, shall we say, right? But what do you do okay, to approach, or how do you approach that potential candidate? Do you wait for them to approach you, or do you approach them? Because this is the way I see it. These fraternal orders that we belong to, brothers and sisters, they have so much to offer. You know, it is a good thing. I don't like to equate the two, but yes, that dinner that you heard me talk about earlier in the podcast, or this particular segment, you know, that dinner it's a wonderful thing. You have a wonderful thing to offer, right? You can't just wait for someone. You should not just wait for others to approach you about membership. If it means so much, you're going to want to share it, right? That wonderful experience you're having, right? So, you know, we should not always wait for a potential candidate to approach us. We offer a wonderful thing, and let's take it out there, right? Let's take it out to that potential candidate. And I will close with that, right? I hope you enjoyed this as much as I hope bringing you a lot of food for thought here, brothers and sisters, right? And before I leave you, I want to draw your attention to the PayPal link in the details section of this podcast, this particular segment, right? You can go there, make a voluntary donation to Points of Light Radio. We will use that to move the podcast forward, right? And you can also see in the details section of this segment, you can see that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also, as always, want to remind you that I welcome your comments and input. You've seen that I interact with many who do reach out to me on the details section, not just in the YouTube, but also on my Facebook page. You can follow Points of Light Radio there again on my Facebook page at Points of Light Radio. Facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, I hope you've enjoyed this particular segment as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Right? And until we meet again, just step into that light and let's carry that wonderful message of our fraternal order to those who have the potential to be part of it.